Hey everyone, welcome to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Popple, along with our guests and my co-host, William McClellan, our guests, Nick Gonzalez and Ryan Keesler. Guys, welcome back onto the show. We're definitely ready to get into the meat and potatoes, talking about renovations, and dealing with tenants, something I know you guys have done a lot of. So,
yeah, dude.
We'll start.
Yeah, that last episode had a lot of really good stuff. So you guys definitely need to check out, especially the back half of that episode. We kind of dive in a little bit about operations of scale, and so like a couple really good tidbits on different types of loan products and things like that. So now that we have that as a little bit of a background, let's dive in onto the business operations. So Nick, Ryan, you guys are scaling really well. Tell us a little bit about what everything is looking like for you guys and how you're operating your business and how we're going to scale from here in 2025.
Go for it, Ryan.
All right.
Love it.
Okay. Well, I mean, rents are getting collected. I can say that. Yeah. So, I mean, things are, is kind of a roller coaster the first few years, but everything's kind of just, smoothing out. I've got 18 active rentals right now, and we're about to launch another 4 in the next probably, I would say, like 6 weeks. Amazing. So things are going really well. We're just keeping our, trying to keep the wheels on the car, make sure everyone pays, and none of the properties are having problems. So, I mean, things are going good.
Awesome. And everything that you and Nick have are local in the area, right?
Northwest Florida, yeah.
Yeah. So just on this episode today, guys, we have over 30 rentals. These guys are able to help people have great, new and renovated properties for local people that might not be able to afford higher end rents on the new apartments that seem to be popping up everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So, and the prices are ridiculous. So, being able to scale, it's bigger than just the business operations. You guys are doing a lot for the community here. So that's awesome. And so you said you're about to get started on 4. Is that a quadplex or 4 new projects?
Yeah, it's a quadplex. It's it's a 3-bedroom, 2 studios, and then a 1-bed.
So, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's we've already replaced.
It's gonna be sick.
Dude, it's gonna be sick.
Okay.
So we've gotten. I think they're mudding. Other than the snow slowing us down, they should be throwing mud on the walls now.
Okay, cool. Drywall is ready to rip. Put cabinets in there. Let's go. You're done.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
I'm ready.
So for some of the listeners that maybe didn't hear your episode, and again, Ryan Keesler, episode 21, one of our most viewed episodes. So you definitely want to dive into the meat and potatoes there. Let's go a little bit about the operations. Like, how did you get to 18 moving in the next coming weeks? Probably when this is released, you'll have over 20, 22. What are high level operations, and how did you do that? For those that maybe didn't listen to the episode, which if you didn't, definitely go check it
out. So I mean, it just all started with 1, and kind of leveraging your network, and I started off with a primary home back in 2007. I just got a townhome, and then our family grew, and I knew that rich people have real estate, so we bought a house like right in 2011 when my daughter was born, and then so we had 1 rental, kind of got used to being a landlord for a couple of years, and then right about when Nick and I met, we were working out at the same gym. I saw a little crack house in town, and I made it a crack home, so that was my first
I thought you were talking about Nick's primary for a second.
I know. I was waiting. I was like, it's my house.
Yeah, if you didn't listen to the last episode, you got to listen to it.
I had nothing to do.
I was like, man, Ryan is just calling him out right now.
Oh, man. Knock on my plywood door, please.
It's but yeah, and then actually the guy who painted the house turned me on to Pensacola, and I ended up buying 3 doors out there, and then refinancing my second house after I'd moved out of it to pulled money and bought another 3 units, and then it just just continued to buy right to where you have lots of equity, and and it just kind of 3 turns into 8, and then 8 turns into 9, then 10, and then it just it's kind of hard to believe, and it kind of gets a little and then you pick up 4. I think that the biggest thing is you have to have a wife that just finds killer deals, and because whatever I look at is she just finds she's like, we should get this, and they've all been worked out. So
that's awesome. So
and I want to give Ryan a quick shout too, just because something I've observed over the years of knowing him is that he is always networking. He always has his ear to the ground on a good deal. He is, he and I, we've come close to a couple of deals that didn't quite come to fruition, but those few are ones that he had found. When I actually first met Ryan at the chamber, we didn't even talk real estate. We were just both there as business people networking, and and he was working that room like crazy. And then I don't know if it was, maybe a month or 2 later, we met at a real estate networking event. And that's when we clicked in that, and then that's how I've actually met Nick too, was through Ryan. So again, he's a networker.
Network king.
Yeah, and I just want to point out to people, because he glazed over his networking, but I promise you that's how a lot of his deals do fall into his lap. His wife does have an eye. I think his wife gets a lot of credit for the higher rents that they charge, because I think she's tougher on raising that than Ryan is. But Ryan definitely networks and finds deals, and I remember he even one time I think put me onto a lead on a property management company he knew about that. It sold recently, but Ryan had told me about it 2 years ago. So the guy knows what's going on in the streets. He has his ears out there.
Honestly, I think I've always kind of been like, I remember this roofer guy told me a long time ago, and he's like, "You're that guy who just thinks you know somebody everywhere." I'm like, "Yeah, I do." That's just like, what do you need? I got it. I know a guy. Yeah,
so. I know a guy.
So something that I also kind of want to dabble in here, you said you really started to scale whenever you and Nick met. So in the last episode, we had a very vivid memory from Ryan about the first time Nick kind of transitioned into real estate. So when was the first time you guys actually met and connected?
5:30 Militia Fitness.
Yep.
Yeah.
5:30
is at the gym.
Okay, cool.
At the time, I was a coach. When was that?
I think Cam was 2, so that was probably 11 years ago.
2013?
Yeah.
Wow.
Something like that. I don't know. I was a 5:30 a.m. coach at the gym.
That's sick.
So he would stroll on in there and then teach the class, and him and I just clicked. We have similar sense of humor. And so we're just a little cracking each other up here and there, and then we just got to talking more and more, and then I can't remember, one of us was just like, "Man, something real estate," and I was like, "You too?" I was just like, how do we do this? How do we start? And then that's just how the gears started turning.
No, dude, I love it. So talking about, I think you make a good point there. Talking about what you're doing, coming from a network king like Ryan. So just in case you guys don't know this, Ryan's new MLM is coming out soon. So he's going to be leading the teams. Network marketing, right?
Oh yeah, right.
Just kidding.
Yeah, get it.
But telling people about what you're doing and just connecting that way. Maybe for some listeners that are a little bit shy, what are a couple key points on what you can do to really connect with someone outside of surface level, and what you tend to do, Ryan?
I'm in the outside sales, so I have to go out and knock on doors and meet businesses and talk about what their needs are, and So it's a little, it's easier for me than say if somebody were shy. I would hold somebody's pocket and just follow them to some of these networking events, somebody that's already kind of plugged in. And that person actually will introduce you to, kind of everybody in the community. It's like, I know one of the girls, like, she's like, I remember I saw her at the networking event, like it was a chamber breakfast, and she's like, "Oh, I hate these things," and I was like, "Come on, let's grab some coffee," and then just go, meet people, and kind of another way is to if do projects with people. It's a good way to get to know them.
Sure, and there's money in line. You really get someone's personality for sure.
or even like just doing something together, like like a friend of mine was telling me he would donate time for like a homeless shelter or something like that, just building stuff with other guys that you don't really know. And,
cool. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just spending time with people, and not trying. The hardest thing in sales is like not to come across as like salesy, like, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. So you want to get to know people and kind of connect with them, and then if you're a connector, you can connect. Like I may not want something from you, but you have a problem like that I can help you solve. And so like if you're having this like I was talking to this guy at the gym the other day, he's got this property that like his mom owns outright, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly where that's at. And we can just throw a new roof on it, have it painted, and just start going through like the numbers of what it would probably cost to like renovate the place. And he's like, it's that easy? I'm like, yeah, it's that easy. And so it's just kind of connecting all the people. And I think that if you have somebody like that,
I think you bring up a good
point. A guy.
Yeah, a guy, right? And I think you bring up a good point there, that there might be some listeners like that. And we talked about a few different strategies in the last episode. So if you know someone in your immediate family that maybe has an older home that needs some renovations, but it's paid off, what kind of recommendations did you give that guy? Just using that as an example.
Well, I was like, he has some money, so he's not hurting. And I was like, just create a budget, 30, 40, 50 grand, whatever. Basically, so I left the gym and I looked it up and kind of got some ideas. It's 864 square feet inside. So I'm, just kind of throwing some rough numbers around. I know it needs, a lot of junk out. So, I mean, just, I guess go through it and just, source some funding, put a game plan together, and then, figure out like the order that it needs to go. So, step one, like if it's got a leaky roof, you got to fix that and just work from the top down.
No, I love it. Yeah, I got to draw it in.
I think this is a good transition to kind of really get into the meat and potatoes, just talking about renovations and rental mishaps and stuff. So maybe each of you guys, let's start with Nick. Like, what's been your most expensive renovation to date? And then same question to Ryan.
The most expensive one is a quadplex that I have in Pensacola, and okay. I think total like purchase price and everything, it was probably like a 2 or 3 year project too. I think it was about 300,000.
Wow. Okay.
How much of that could you have saved if you would have avoided a certain somebody?
Yeah. So I'm sure these questions are coming too with like mishaps, but I was working with a contractor, and I was fairly new to working with contractors. So I'm gullible and trustworthy. Now, so, I was being a little too gullible. And so he ended up, I thought he had, long story short, I thought he had like a license, and he ended up not having a license, and he ended up like just kind of bailing at the finish line. So I had to go back and fix a lot of things. So it probably would have been like a $250,000 project.
Darn.
But with the hard lessons that I learned, it was probably pushing close to 300,000.
So in summary of some hard lessons, obviously getting to know your contractor might be one. What are some other key ways?
So for me, it's like I've always been blue collar, so I've always tried to do it myself. But there's just no way to scale. You got to let go of the reins, and that's been a challenge for me. But that can be a topic for later. But yeah, you got to get to know your contractor. You got to do the background on them. You can't. Between Ryan and I, we've learned a lot of lessons about potentially going with the cheapest option, the lowest bid, and it's come back to bite us a few times.
Kind of get what you for thing, and
exactly.
Yeah. Even if so, talking about that, when people are building budgets, what would be something that you guys do to vet? Now that you guys have a number of rentals and a number of rehabs under your belt, what are some things that maybe someone that's a little bit green and new could kind of jump ahead and learn from you guys?
When you make your budget, go ahead and add 20 grand to it. Just go ahead and add 20 grand to it. Just because there's all the little miscellaneous things that'll pop up.
What was your biggest rehab? Just the rehab, Brian.
Rolling Hills. It was a house that I bought for said contractor to do all the work on, and he bailed on me too. And so
he was playing us both at the same time.
Same guy.
Oh, yeah. Same guy. Yep.
Well, he did a great job on some floors, and then it escalated. So a few takeaways.
That's my bad. That's my bad.
If they can start right away, that's bad. And if they can do everything, that's also bad. Because
I think let's pause there. I think this is very, very important for some people that are just hopping in. Okay. Now, if someone's openly available,
it's because they suck.
Outside of the obvious, why is that a bad sign? And maybe why should someone new kind of stray away?
They can't keep work,
Okay, they can't keep work. That's why they're available. They don't.
They won't get rehired potentially, because they just do such a bad job. They botch it or screw the person over. It's endless things that can happen, but for the most part, if they're needing the work, there's a reason why they need the work. It's just either the quality's not there.
I mean, think about if you have a good experience and everyone in the neighborhood comes by and if you get a new fence or a new tile or something like that, that truck's outside, everyone walking by sees that guy, and if he does an amazing job, I guarantee you one of the neighbors is going to call him, or a couple of them.
That's a solid point because I know most people who provide home services of any kind, that I've talked to, told me that usually once they get one house, they'll then try to usually put a hanger on the houses within the immediate perimeter, and they said 9 times out of 10 they usually will get a job in that neighborhood. Again, just because, like you said, they just saw the truck there, they just saw the house. In my neighborhood recently, some new windows have been happening, and I saw the window truck at one house. Later on a week, I saw them at another house.
Nice.
I saw the same window truck just down the street the other day. And again, it's the same thing. They did a great job. Neighbors asked questions, and that's how it's spread.
And so I think this is a really good, especially for someone that might be doing something as their primary, kind of taking Nick's path, an approach. If you're working with a contractor and you say, hey, this is the house that I live in, these are my neighbors, I have a lot of friends in this neighborhood, so the work that you do, they're going to have direct eyes on it. If there's also some leveraging things that I know Ryan does very well. It's hey, whenever I go to list this or put it up for rent, I'm also putting this on my personal Facebook, which all of my neighbors are in. Now I'm looking at neighborhoods where I'm going to do a rehab with maybe 100 homes. Okay, that's a pretty big leveraging tactic for that person. The grout's perfect. The tiles aren't sideways. You're getting what is going to be great for not only your home, but then potentially his or her.
Well, like our friend Paul, who's an electrician, percussive maintenance in Crestview. So he, somebody asked, somebody asked for an electrician they used them, and then I see Paul rolling by, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to work for David Julie." I'm like, and he's just like the neighborhood go-to guy apparently now, and I'm just
awesome.
like, because he's awesome, and so
that's it.
And he's not crazy expensive, he's very reasonable, and so there's people like that out there that, that those are the people you want to work with. And if you don't know anyone, a great resource is Thumbtack, which is like you can just post a job and you can see all the reviews that those people have in that space.
So how often are getting a little bit more into business ops is a good little transition here. What are some like quick integrations or apps or websites that you guys are using that are pretty effective? So we're Thumbtack right now. I think that's we'll put a link in the description to that, but I think that's a great resource. Are you using anything else? I know obviously for Ryan, it's networking locally at everything. What other type of like golden nuggets that we can kind of share?
Like the Facebook contractors groups.
That's a great one.
Oh yeah, use those often. Yep. Okaloosa, Escambia County. For the ones listening, that's Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach.
Yep.
And so just where I have my properties, and Ryan has his, so I'm all in those Facebook groups, because you can just put a little message out there to the whole group saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a tile man, approximately this size and this," and then you can get multiple messages back potentially, and then that's where you got to do your due diligence. So, hey, send me some pictures of your previous work, or hey, do you have any references, or how this? Then it goes back to the question, or like, hey, when can you start?
When are you
I can start tomorrow. Yeah, I'm like. Because kind of exactly what you guys were talking about. If they do good work, they're going to tell their buddies, and then hey, do you know anyone that does tile? As a matter of fact, I do, and he did a great job. Here's his number. That person's going to stay in business if they do quality work for sure.
So what is, and this is questions to both of you. We can start with you, Nick, and then Ryan. What's the biggest renovation screw up that you had to fix? It sounds like we might be back to this contractor we just talked about, but I think I want to hear the biggest mess up that you guys had to overcome, each of y'all.
So this it's going to be the same property. It's the quadplex, and like this is probably my first big project and actually using a contractor too. And so I was like, permits. I was like, we don't need those. We don't need permits. Don't worry about all that. And he was probably like, oh, thank God, because I can't pull them anyway. You know what I mean? Because he didn't have a license. Right. And so he did the electrical, he did the plumbing, he did the sheetrock, he did everything in this place. And and then one unit was finished and it was actually occupied, and it was time to swap out the electrical panels on the outside. The main panels, they had to be upgraded. And he talking his car salesman game. He was so good. He's like, oh yeah, we'll have it shut off and then we'll get them put in a day. And then, we'll have Gulf Power come on and turn them right back on. It'll be fine. And then fast forward, we get the power shut off, the meters get put up, and Gulf Power won't turn them back on. And I have a tenant staying in the building. And I was just like, what's going on here? He's like, I don't know. And then he kind of just vanished. And so,
that's when he left. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So then long story
stranded, no power, just to make it real clear.
Stranded, no power. The tenant, I ended up telling the tenant, hey, I'm really sorry. I don't know when it's coming back on. So they just left. The tenant just left, and peacefully everything was great. And to try to make this story short, I had to bring the whole building up to code electrically. And so all the brand new sheetrock, we had to pull a lot of the sheetrock down so a lot of the electrical can be redone. Ended up costing.
What was the cost? What was the cost to redo that? Right.
I think just the electrical was $17,000 to have an electrician go back in there, punch holes everywhere, and get the building back up to code. Like I said, because once a certain percentage of the building is getting done, they require the whole building to get brought up. And so the county was like, Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no! I was just gonna say, yeah, go. I was just gonna say, and then you had to go pay someone to go back and fix drywall.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and then this is just part of it. Like the electricians gave me the go ahead to get the sheetrock finished, and then they had to go back and cut more holes. So I had to like get sheetrock done twice, and that's just part of the game. There's nothing that I could do at that point. But yeah, it was 17 grand for the electricians. And then I think it was like another 7 grand for sheetrock, paint, texture, because they had to cut holes in the ceilings because the downstairs units didn't have an attic, so there was no attic or crawl space, so they had to cut holes literally everywhere.
Before I'd say before we go on to Ryan's, I wanted to say so you could probably have avoided all of that just by making sure it was a licensed electrician that was handling that.
Correct. Yes.
I got that nailed down.
I didn't do my due diligence. I just went into it thinking that everyone could be trusted, just being gullible and new. But the big caveat was I didn't do my due diligence, didn't get his license number, didn't actually check it, because there's places you can call. You can call the county and get, run their license number to make sure they're legit or it's active. And that was probably so far the biggest mistake that I've done.
But dude, what a way to learn. I mean, I know it's like paying for that education, but
yeah,
you got an education out of it, and I mean, you're never going to be doing that again. As far as
grace of God, I still ended up on top. So it was an expensive mistake, but it still worked out at the end of the day. I still had equity in the property when it was done, just not as much. Just not as much. But I ended up burring out of that place eventually.
Okay. What about you, Ryan? What was your most expensive renovation mess up?
Well, I had to uninstall and reinstall 3 air conditioners. And
why? What happened?
Oh, I know a guy. Well, they didn't build the boxes where the air handler sits on top of, so they were pulling debris from under the houses, and so there's like all this like air that gets in, and so even though they had a screen there or a vent, it's all this air from inside of the walls, and so they had to physically pull the air conditioners out, pull out the coils, clean them, reinstall the coil, then build the box, and I had to do that on 3 different air conditioners. And actually, the one that was most recent is we had off-grade floors, and so they put LVP down. Well, LVP, waterproof, right? Not really, because it creates a moisture barrier between the wood and where it sits on. So if there's no moisture,
it works so good that it won't even allow airflow through the LVP. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it softened all the original flooring, and the thing that you learn is they take a big 6-foot like level, and if there's any kind of like bow in the floor, and they'll show you that floor isn't warranted. So I had to rip up all that flooring, which probably cost me about $4,000 to put down originally. And then I had to buy all new flooring, which was got a good deal. So I was like $2 grand, and then another $6 grand to prep a whole new layer of subfloor, do 2 moisture barriers, and reinstall the flooring with quarter round. So that was an expensive problem. So,
ouch. And how could that have been avoided?
Hire a real flooring guy.
Got it.
Hire a real air conditioner guy. So just find someone you like to work with who does good work that's reasonable, and use them.
So maybe for some listeners on like licensed and insured contractors, like what is the benefit of that? How could have that maybe softened some of the blow or help alleviate completely some of these mishaps?
So for me, as I think back, a lot of times, even to this day, I have the thought, I was like, should I pull a permit? I mean, it's a simple job, Yeah. But the permit, everyone gives, Yeah, I hate that. And then, the inspectors always get a bad rap that they're evil and everything else. And it's like kind of just with Ryan and just networking, just fluff them up a little bit, just be nice to them. But the permit really protects you. Like if you make a deal with a contractor and you say, hey, pull a permit for this, whatever job it's going to be, say, hey, I'm not paying you until the permit closes. So, technically the permit's protecting you because if the electrician or the plumber or whoever comes out, pulls a permit, does a crappy job, and it won't pass an inspection, you don't get paid. You do
No, I
not
love
get
it.
paid.
I think
Yeah.
that is definitely a golden nugget
Excuse me.
there as far as I mean, because I didn't even think about it for that reason, but I love what you said about making sure that kind of talk to your contractor up front that that you'll give them the final payment when the permit's closed out. Because I've actually known people too that have I think I've seen it most commonly in roofs where people get a roofing permit pulled, but they won't necessarily get them closed out. And a lot of times people don't know closed out until something happens where they got to go sell it or got to go reinsure it, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, I saw you pulled a permit in 2022, but I don't see where it's closed out. And so then there's all these questions.
I've seen that.
Didn't even happen.
Actually, I did a bulk deal on. I think I did like 6 roofs all in one whack, and it was. And so I went out and I filled out the notice of commencements, which is so the contractor can go pull the permit. And I thought everything was great. I got everything got installed. It looked great, and then no permit, not one permit was pulled. And so I had to go back and find a roofer to come inspect the roofs and then write a certified letter saying that it meets code. And then they did the inspection and I got my permits closed out, which you don't think about. But when you go to get your homeowner's insurance, the first thing they do is they go and look to see when the last permit was pulled on your roof. And so your insurance could be either $1,000 or $5,000, depending on when that permit was pulled. So very expensive.
Definitely. Well, I know we got a little bit of time left, and so I want to quickly kind of switch it from renovations to actually, renting. So renting places, 2 tenants. So, everyone is always worried about what's the worst that can happen. So I think we should tell them what's the worst that can happen. So hey, same questions, Nick. What's your worst tenant story? And it could be a long-term tenant or a short-term tenant. I know both you guys, do some Airbnb and then also, have some long term. So, what's your worst story you have, and then how'd you overcome it? What would you do different?
Oh, just this morning I had to send somebody over with a hair dryer because the pipes were frozen, and they tenant to message me and said there's no water. That's not a bad one though. That's not. I'll take that all day for the winter we just had through Florida. But the worst one, I've been blessed so far. I haven't gotten anyone that it like just did complete damage. Nothing like that. I've had somebody that I rented to, and like a month later they were already behind, and I had to evict them. They were the first person I've ever had to evict, and they left the place just an absolute wreck. No damage, but there was just crap everywhere. And so I just backed the dump trailer up to the door, and I just started just tossing. Big
weekend clean out was pretty much the worst then.
That's it. Was
that the stripper?
Yeah, that was a stripper.
Which brings me to one of my hard fast rules. Don't let.
He told me not to. He told me not to. He warned me. But I was so in a hurry to get that quadplex booked. I just got it finished. I was renovating it for 3 years, and I was trying to get that bad boy booked up quick. And he was like, "Don't do it."
Sounds like Ryan has some bad stripper experiences too.
Oh my god! Oh, yeah. So what's a way that we can, get good tenants? For some listeners that are trying to work on rental.
Screening. You got to do your due diligence and screening.
Yeah.
And I like to use Zillow. They apply through Zillow, and Zillow runs a background check and a credit check. And then from there, I do the evaluating.
Yeah, I do the same on mine. I like doing it through Zillow too, because one of the things I like to tell people is, I do hate seeing when people are kind of like overcharged background checks and by property management companies. They make everybody do it, and I see that why and the necessity, but at the same time, a lot of people search for a home. It's tough, and so the cool thing about Zillow is if someone pays that background check fee on there, it's good for all other rentals on Zillow for the next 30 days. So, they won't have to. So basically they can pay that application fee, for yours, but then that same application background can apply to everything else. So it really makes it, more affordable for the tenant. But hey Ryan, what was your worst rental story?
We had to evict a family member because they didn't pay rent for I think 5 months, and then
how close the family?
Real close.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were having some problems, and we got kind of cornered into it, and so reluctantly we rented to them, and they stayed there for a few years and progressively got worse and worse in there. And so when we finally got them out, they left all their stuff in. Well, the thing is you'll spend $1,000 easy just getting their shit out. And then we had to replace all the floors, I think it were, plus the legal fees of actually going through. It wasn't good enough just to give them the paperwork and be figure it out, but we had to actually go through it. And so that was terrible. But, when we got up there, their dogs had soiled the rugs, and, it was just bad. So we ended up pulling all the carpet out, and, had to redo all the floors, paint everything. And I'm sure I'm forgetting about a bunch, but I know it was a good, $12,000 or $14,000 that cost us, plus the loss of rent and, and the relationship. So that was probably one.
I bet they're not invited to Thanksgiving anymore.
They are.
Oh man, you're too kind.
Sucker.
Yeah. Just don't bring your friends.
They'd be exiled from my family.
And then I had one other one that was worse, where she came with the property, and I knew it was coming. She was gross. Always was gross, and that one I ended up spending about $30,000 this year renovating, and I just knew it was going to be bad because we got it bad, and we just she was always paying that same rent, and so. Once it finally came, just the trash out was probably I had 4 dumpsters at $500 a piece about, so that's $2,000 just in dumpsters, not even labor. And then,
that's crazy.
Now, is this the one with no air conditioner?
Yeah.
No AC.
I'm assuming you got the property for a really good deal, and that was why you were willing to buy it with a tenant in place. Am I right?
Yeah, I got it for $33,000, and so she paid $950 for probably 3 or 4 years, and so
wow. So she. For everyone listening, that's a 3%er. That's that's 36% annual return right there for a few years, even though it's a crappy tenant. So I want to make sure people heard that, because when they hear the $30,000 expense, that sounds bad. But considering you bought the property for $33,000, it's
So I'm in at $60,000, and now it's rented for $1,350. So real estate's time and market. It just it's so easy to think about Nick's story where he lost $50,000 in that deal. Well, he really didn't lose it. He got all his money back, but he had to go through that pain and agony, which we've all had to do, where you write these big ugly checks. But then you write the check, the pain goes away, you get it rented, you're like, okay, we're back in business, and
it's part of the process is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So for some of the listeners, it sounds scary, but it's ebb and flow, right? There's really, really good times, and then there's times that aren't really, really good. But you just have to know that you can make it back on the other side.
That's right.
Yeah.
If it
So
was easy, everyone would be doing it, So
So what do the next 12 months look like for you guys?
What do you got going on? Free time?
oh yeah, man, just here with my dog. No, it's so for probably this year, my goal is to get my contractor's license. This house that I'm currently in is probably I'm probably at 70% mark. I got to finish the kitchen and do the living room and the exterior, and this place will be ready for sale. And this is my primary, so I'm going to sell it, not pay capital gains, take that big chunk of money, and then I want to build like I said what I was saying at the last session we were on. I want to start building houses. So it'll be my test run.
Okay.
So I'm going to sell this house, get my license, and build a starter home in Pensacola.
That's
Perfect.
awesome. I think that we will have to have you back on because I think a lot of people might be really interested in the transition from renovations to new construction, and then kind of why you reset your business and maybe refocused, allocating a ton of time to get your GC and contractor's license and things like that. I know that I would love to have you back on for that episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Which we have another guest coming in who did the same thing. We're doing an interview later this month, and he did like first year 10 flips in a year, and then started one new construction and said, this is it. I'm just in new construction because I can probably do 2 or 3, way more flexible in time, and make about the same amount of money as doing 10.
Yeah.
And then also there's so many benefits, and this is maybe something we can transition, like getting people qualified. If you're doing a sell through and you're selling it, it's a lot easier to get qualified on a new construction house than it is a renovated house. Also, insurance, which is really
insurance.
right.
Yeah. That's one of the big reasons. One of the big reasons.
I love it. Yeah. So, but we'll dive into that. But I'm super excited. Yeah.
What's your next 12 months look like, Ryan?
Honestly, I just want to stack some cash, and I've got a couple of mortgages that are pretty close to the finish line, so I kind of want to get those paid off.
Awesome.
So if I can somehow manage to not buy anything and avoid, paying, if someone knows how to mitigate my tax burden from all this rent that's coming in, that's going to pay all this stuff off, let me know, because that's like the biggest drawback to taking all your free cash that comes in and paying off debt is now you have to pay tax on it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. I'm right there with you, dude. I hate taxes. So anything they can do to get rid of our taxes, I'm all about it.
Well, man,
for that.
Yeah, no, I think we're all in on that. This has been a really fun episode, and I can't wait to do another one. Lots of good stuff with Ryan and Nick here. Both episodes were great. Loved how we dived in on some creative financing in the first episode. Loved how open you guys were. I really appreciate that, because I think that's really cool about this podcast. Not just saying because we're hosting it. I don't have like a hyper local group of people that are always willing to be open on their first projects. And something that I think has been really cool, and I don't want to speak for Sam, is having people on here. We're all kind of within the Northwest Florida area. For the majority of the episodes, we have had some guests outside, but the cool thing is Nick and Ryan, I can connect with you guys on a deal, which, Ryan called Sam and I on Christmas Eve, and we thought we had it at the finish line, so like, that's something that's cool. You guys
bedrooms just weren't going to be big enough. That was the deal breaker, and the plans I had to go through weren't good plans. So close. You
guys can connect with these guys. We give you guys all of the the guests, give you guys all their contact information. So I think it's something that's, really powerful, especially speaking and kind of talking to Ryan, who's really great at networking. This has been so beneficial to us, and being able to do it, I think it's been, really a fun journey this last year. And we're trying to just give a lot back to the listeners this year. I think that's a big goal for Sam and I. So thanks for being part of that journey.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah.
I know before we close out, I know we'll have a final question, but my last one before he asks you guys that is what's a book you guys would recommend to someone who's starting out today? And
and Ryan gave us some killer ones last time.
Yeah, but I mean I know Ryan's read something since then, so I mean we need a new book. So I need to add some to my list. So Nick, what's the best, one of the best, what can be for mindset, real estate, business, or just make you feel good? What's a book you'd recommend someone to, help them get to where you are today?
One of the last books I read, what was it? I think it's Atomic Habits.
Okay.
That's a pretty good book. It's a mindset book, and it's about just like these micro decisions that we make, because everything starts so small. And so just you start off with these micro decisions, and it's a book that just really helps you get things done.
Love it.
But other than that, I really stick to the podcast more than anything. Bigger Pockets. That's about it as of right now. For right now,
yeah.
Man,
What
I wish
about you, Ryan?
Elite Real Estate Podcast, but next time.
Yeah, working on I would say since we're talking about managing rental property, there's a book that Brandon Turner wrote called The Book on Managing Rental Property.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff like you kind of know that's kind of what you should do, but when you read it and it just reaffirms, kind of like the same way that like you read Rich Dad Poor Dad and it's like, oh yeah, I was already thinking that. Thanks, Robert Kiyosaki. So that a lot of the things about like managing rental properties and screening tenants, he covers that in those books, or at least in that book. So that's a great listen if you're planning on getting into landlording. One guy told me that this always stood out. Like, you're willing to spend $250,000 or hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you won't spend $10 on a book first. And so definitely, yeah. I mean, $10 and 3-4 hours of reading will save you so much money.
Yeah.
So
no, that's great. That's great. So I guess in closing, I love to ask this one, and we'll start with Ryan and then finish up the episode with Nick. But what's some advice that you would give to someone that's starting today if they wanted to do what you do?
I would say, make sure your financial house is in order. Make sure that you're ready, because if you're gonna try to buy a bunch of real estate and you're in debt and you're bad with money, you're gonna be bad with money with a bunch of real estate. So those habits you have now are gonna follow you. So if you're good with money and you want to get started, decide a strategy. Whether you want to just buy something that's ready to go, or if you want to, force some appreciation, there's pretty much your two options. And start analyzing deals, save up money, make sure you got, you're ready to go.
I think that's great advice. What is something that you could add to that for a listener to get good with money? What's something that would help them? Sometimes finances and things are a little bit, a lot of people will get nervous. They don't feel open and candid to talk about, so I like that advice to, get your financial house in order, but maybe directly to someone that's listening that maybe isn't good with finances. What's something that would be, good to get their finances?
So, I think like when I used to get paid, I had a realization, like, because I didn't have money growing up, and so I would a lot of times I would float checks to get to payday. So go to the grocery store Wednesday night. I go there before after the bank closes. I know that they're not going to take that check to the bank till Thursday, and if I want to get bold, I might do it Tuesday and hope that it clears by Friday, right? And then I realized that this is before credit cards, that I've already spent my paycheck. You know, if I'm getting $500 and I spend 100 of it before I even get it, like what percentage of that is actually gone before I even get the money in my hands, right? And that's the same thing with credit cards, car payments, unnecessary luxuries. So, you know,
So make a budget.
make a budget. Yeah, write all
Yes.
your, all make a list of all your expenses. And once I started doing that, and I would, I knew I was getting paid. You write down all your bills, make a daily budget of what you can spend. It's so simple. Like if you've got $100 a week, hey, I got what, $13 a day to go spend on whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
So just being able to manage your money in a simple way, and get everyone out of your pocket as early in life as you can, because it feels great to go out and spend money on stuff, but like, if you don't have it, you're going to be paying for it. Plus, probably double what you spend on it just with interest, and you're robbing from your future self.
Sure.
So I think what Liz and I did is, I had built a food truck, probably when Cam was like 2 or 3, and we sold that, and I made like 18 grand, and we ended up paying off a 2009 Malibu, and then I had a truck that I had bought, and we had a decent payment on it. It was like a 2011 Dodge, and I think it was probably 2013, 2014. So we actually sold that back to the car dealership and bought a car cash for Liz, and she rolled a Cobalt for several years, and so we had no car payments. We had 2 mortgages, one for rental property, somebody else is paying for it, and so when I bought my first investment property, I had saved up like 20,000. I had 401k money, and we had like utilities, cell phone, and house payment. So that's really where you want to be at when you start taking on all these risky projects, because if you need to swallow $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month for 6 months, a year, you can't have that sink your ship. You want to be able to
Sure.
just handle that. So that's what I mean by keep your financial house in order. Get everyone out of your pocket and just set your future self up for success.
Yeah, no, I think you make a great point, and I can't remember if it was in the beginning of this episode or the last episode. It's a lot easier to pay yourself back and to make more money by cutting expenses than having the $1 million idea, side hustle.
And I'm gonna point out for everyone listening, because Ryan, talked about how they, sold downsized on cars to cut money to have some paid off vehicles.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people like, do I want to ride in a Chevy Cobalt? I totally would if I could go live in a waterfront house today, and that's what Ryan's doing. He's doing that from his office in his waterfront house. So I just wanted to highlight, because he's not going to brag about that sacrifice he made and what he got rewarded with, but I'll brag for him. Because I think it's impressive, and everybody needs to know that, like I said, what can happen if you sacrifice the pride today, because I'm sure you guys are much more proud to live in your home today where it's at than to drive any vehicle, like whatever, no matter what it was, you'd much rather be where you are.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So same question to you, Nick. What's some advice that you would give to someone starting today, if they wanted to do what you do? And for the listeners, remember, Nick has really scaled in the last 2 years. I mean, he has 12 doors, working on getting his contractor's license. So, some hyper growth here. So what's some advice you could give to maybe someone wanting to do that?
Ryan touched a lot on it, but but to sum it up is like live beneath your means. You just cut a lot of that stuff out if you can. Like, I don't enjoy life. Don't go down to ramen noodles, but like, live beneath your means. I had a 2005 F-150 that I drove I probably had it for 16 years. It's been paid off forever. I finally just got a new truck probably a year and a half ago, and it's new to me. It's not even a brand new truck. It's still used because I don't need a brand new truck right now. It's just I'm already in that mindset. It's just live beneath your means right now.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
so that's probably one of the big things. Excuse me. And financial literacy. If you don't quite understand money or how money works, that's probably would be step one.
Who could they
Because I
ask?
mean the schools don't teach it, which is
Right.
wild. Find
Pick
a
up
friend.
book, $10.
Yeah, pick up a book. Yeah, exactly.
I've left that Dave Ramsey book and no one touches it. I'll leave it there. Hey, somebody take it.
I knew you.
Yep.
I knew you read some Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
I was waiting. I was waiting for you to give him an endorsement.
It's funny. I read that book too. It was to get me out of debt, and then I learned about leveraging in real estate, and it took me.
I'll be real clear.
Hammer
I'm not
back.
knocking Dave Ramsey. I actually think that's a great place for the majority of people to start.
I agree.
I
agree.
think everybody should kind of start there to kind of like get their house in order, like Ryan said. I do think once you kind of can take the investment angle, I do think you can responsibly use leverage, which Dave Ramsey would not agree with. If he was on the show right now, he'd be telling me I'm completely wrong, probably. But
ABCs of real estate or the cash flow quadrant, maybe those are a couple ones that you could couple with a couple Dave Ramsey.
But as far as personal expenses go, as far as your personal credit cards and your personal stuff, I think Dave Ramsey is spot on. I think you can do it a little bigger with like Will said, applying the cash flow quadrant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I think to leverage interest-free money from some of these credit card companies is a great. The credit cards are not evil. I mean, we got 3 round-trip tickets to London for $600 because we used a credit card that gave us a butt ton of points. I'm paying for a lot of the renovations on the quadplex using interest-free 18-month credit cards. So. A lot
of people know that you can also pay your taxes with a credit card interest free. You got a lot of, but that's a whole nother episode that we can go into. But
if they're used responsibly, but now if you're using them to go out to eat and for fun and to put on vacations and to make ends meet, there's some
your house is not in order.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's completely fine to use them as long as you got the income to pay them off in full at the end of it. No one's saying don't ever use one because I use cards and everything. But for all my personal expenses, if I'm going out to eat, I got that money in the bank and I'm just using that card to get the cash back points and I'm paying it off.
That's right.
But before we close out, guys, where's some good places if someone to reach out to you guys today and do a deal with you guys, where's a good way for people to contact you guys, through social media, email, or even your phone number if you want to throw it up there, no pressure. But what's a good social media or place where people can reach out to you guys?
Go ahead, Nick.
You can reach out to me on Instagram.
Sweet.
Cool. What's your
my email? Do you want me to just write it on here?
Yeah.
Oh, you just tell us real quick. What's your Instagram handle for anyone listening?
Okay, it's _guy_Nicky G.
I love it.
Uncle Nicky G.
All right,
so
I'm transitioning it to Sam. Outside of checking out both Sam and I on the Elite Real Estate Podcast, which we've updated the website, definitely give us some feedback. We're still working through a few things. There's going to be a great outlet where you guys can get all of the books listed that are mentioned by all of our guests, as well as when they have different types of companies or meetups or conferences that are mentioned. So we think that's going to be a really great tool. But if we have Nicky G, Sam, where do we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my Instagram at Sam_FloridaMan, or you can just go to the EliteRealEstatePodcast.com and scroll down the bottom and fill out that message section, and we'll definitely get back to you there. So best way, like I say, EliteRealEstatePodcast.com. If you want to have a direct conversation with me kind of quicker, then go to my Instagram, Sam_FloridaMan. I'd love to check out any deals you have going on. Will and I are currently looking for buildable land in Northwest Florida and South Alabama. So anywhere from pretty much, I'd say Fairhope to 30A. We're looking at anything there, especially in the Escambia County area, though. We're really looking hard in North Escambia County. So anybody has any buildable land that they want us to look at, to possibly, or if anyone's looking to have some as a wholesaler wants to sell them to us, please reach out. We're definitely looking for land.
Yeah. And so what about you, Ryan? Where can we find you? Outside of 21.
So you can just find me on really LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. All my contact information's on there.
Showing your age, Ryan.
I know. I have an Instagram, but I think Facebook forced it. But if you Google Ryan Keesler, there's two of us, and one's not me. So
yeah. I love that, because that's going to drive everyone to check out this episode on YouTube. So you'll get all the new shorts. Everything's going to really ramping up everything, not only for you guys as the listeners, but also for our guests. We're really trying to get as much content, shorts, and everything out there for everyone, and to get their names and stories out there, because these people hopping on this podcast are for you guys' benefit. They're not charging anything. So we're really thankful to both Ryan and Nick.
And we're not getting paid.
I told you, your checks in the mail.
I did want to add one more thing, though.
Yeah.
Is it all right? Is it all right? It was live beneath your means, and it's just save some money, start saving some money, start educating yourself, read some books, go to some real estate meetups. I guarantee there's going to be some meetups in your town. You just got to Google it. And then what Ryan mentioned earlier, find a friend that's already kind of doing it, and have them hold your hand. And because the saying, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future kind of thing. You got to surround yourself around real estate, like-minded people. And then for the people that are just trying to start to scale, for me, signing my name for the first house was super scary. Signing my name for the second house was super scary. Third on, it was like, where's the papers? Let me sign it. Let me get out of here.
Yeah.
So it's a scary thing at first, but you'll be okay.
Let me point out,
it goes away.
Yeah, I'm going to point out that even though Nick has left his W-2, why don't you tell us the last how many trips you've been on since you've left your job, or at least the last 2 years of all these amazing excursions that you've gone on?
It's been a few. I went skiing in Montana, skiing in Lake Tahoe. I think I went to some lake in Missouri. I don't know. They kind of all blur together. It's been good. It's been good.
Are you going to where are you going next?
Next weekend I'm going to. I always forget the name of it. Somewhere in Europe. Where am I going?
Was it the Switzerland or something?
Switzerland. That's where I'm going.
Oh my
Switzerland
God.
next weekend. That's going to be pretty cool.
He must be traveling a lot if he can't even remember.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And something in closing, I think as a New Year reset, I was listening to Jesse Itzler, and he just talks about there's multiple levels of being rich. And so something that I think is really great, and a great example here is he quantified time rich to be one of the most important, way above being monetarily rich, health rich being at the top, because you can't do much if you're not healthy and feeding your body. And then if there's a whole bunch of things you want to do and you're making a lot of money, but you're bound and you're not able to utilize and have some free time, it also is a trade. So I think it's really cool that you transitioned out of that W-2 and now you're really time rich, which is awesome in life. So congrats.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, we appreciate y'all coming on the show. It's been a great episode. Anyone listening should definitely go come by one of my Clean Eats locations. And until next time, we appreciate everyone listening to the Elite Real Estate Podcast. We'll see y'all later.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all.